All right, perfect. So yes, thank you everyone for coming today. This is just our presentation. It's called Better at the Bin. We're trying to help you get a little bit of background on the importance of waste sorting and then go into the real nitty-gritty of what goes where. I'm going to start off with a couple of videos. We have them and they're really nice.
This is Tina. Tina's busy, like you. She's got her hands full, but she makes time to recycle. Her building, probably like the place you live, has a blue Recology bin for recycling, right there next to the garbage bin. Easy. But where should Tina's apple core go? If she throws it away, this is where it ends up. That's Tina's apple core, right there. When organic materials like food scraps and yard trimmings go to the landfill, that creates a number of adverse effects. You may not know that in landfills, a lack of oxygen slows down the decomposition process of organic material and results in the production of harmful greenhouse gases that fuel climate change, like methane. If, instead, Tina throws it in the green bin, it makes a huge difference. Unlike landfills, composting significantly reduces greenhouse gas emissions. It helps sequester carbon. Composting also improves water retention, helping farmers save water while enriching the soil. It puts nutrients back into the food we eat, so things like apples are more nutritious. So, when you put your food scraps in a Recology green bin, like the one at Tina's place, or like the one you'd find at work, in restaurants, and at all sorts of places, you set in motion a process that helps fight climate change. Then Recology takes it from there. We've been leading the way on composting for decades. Every day, more than 2,500 tons of compostable material arrives at Recology facilities up and down the West Coast, and we turn all of that organic waste into nutrient-rich compost. Here's Kirk Steed from Recology to take us through our composting process. First, we grind it up.
This increases the surface area, so it all composts faster.
Then, we use a series of screens to refine the quality of our compost. Next, it goes into an aerated static pile. This is basically a vacuum system.
Aerating helps keep the material at the right temperature and circulates air to reduce odor.
After about 60 days, the material is tested to ensure it meets all requirements. Once it passes all testing, the compost is ready to go out, mostly to local farms, vineyards, and orchards. Think about composting from the perspective of Be Love farm owner Matthew Engelhart. This is just one of the places your compost goes and your food comes from. Farmer Matthew and his crew use compost all over Be Love farm. They use it to grow cover crops that sequester carbon. They use it to help conserve water and to improve the quality of the food they grow.
We treat soil like dirt, but it's way more important. It's where all our food comes from and all of us eat. So we ought to honor soil, and how we can do that is by recycling our food waste and making compost.
If we want a world without waste, that's within our grasp, but we must make composting part of our routine. Thanks, Tina, and thank you for composting.
So what ends up in landfills, actually, we find that about 70% is actually either recyclable or compostable. So trying to get those apple cores, food specifically, is a lot of the weight that ends up in landfills. So trying to get food waste out of landfills is really important to us. We're trying to lower emissions from landfills and, stop global warming, climate change. The landfills are about the third largest contributors to emissions. There are a couple pledges that we've made in San Francisco back in 2018 with Mayor London Breed to reduce solid waste generation by 15% by 2030 and to reduce landfill and incineration by 50%. I believe that's 2030 as well. There we go. And here's the second video. Let's see if this one will play.
Your recycling bin gets picked up and delivered to Recycle Central on Pier 96. There, Recology separates 700 tons of recyclables every day into 14 different materials. It starts when our collection trucks deliver recyclables to the tipping floor. The materials get loaded on the initial sort deck where we have a 14-person sorting line. Recyclables then pass by sorting machines that separate materials by type using gravity and rotating screens. These conveyor belts send the separated materials to different areas of our facility to be separated further. We have 3 optical sorters that separate plastic bags from paper using light sensors. Recycling workers then remove any plastic bags that remain on the line, and the conveyor belts carry the clean paper to high-density balers. We also have robots. These sort plastic bottles and containers made from different types of plastic. When we all do our part, San Francisco produces finished bales of recycling with less than 1% contamination. This is a quality standard demanded by mills that purchase recycled materials to make new products. Materials placed in the curbside composting bins go to the West Wing, a special part of the San Francisco transfer station. Here, compostable materials get loaded into large trucks for transport to Recology's compost facility near Vernalis. At this large outdoor operation, food scraps, yard trimmings, and food soil paper become finished compost in just 60 days. Compost is a nutrient-rich soil amendment that helps farmers grow healthy fruits and vegetables. Farmers also love compost because it's a natural sponge that saves tremendous amounts of water. Applying compost returns carbon to the soil and helps farmers grow cover crops like mustard that pull carbon from the atmosphere and push it deep into the soil. Items put in the trash bin go to the transfer station, where they get crushed and loaded into long-haul trucks for transport to a landfill. Materials tossed in the trash are not sorted and do not get recycled or composted. The EPA reports that 20% of America's carbon emissions comes from trash decomposing in landfills. And this is where we can all make a big difference. By being better at the bin and sorting our materials into the recycling and compost bins, we can help reduce the amount that ends up in landfill.
So I'm going to go over the materials that we do sort out and we do recycle. Glass and metals are what we call infinitely recyclable. So those jars and bottles and cans can be reused to make those same materials over and over again. They don't lose quality when you recycle them. A can be back on the shelves being in, I think, 2 months. So very, very good materials for recycling. Also saves us from companies having to mine for more of these materials or source them. I've been to presentations with SFE who talk about how much aluminum do you think you need to make a can? And they do this presentation where they show a piece of aluminum this big, raw material. They ask, how many cans do you think you can make out of a piece that big? And it ends up only just being the tab of one can. So you would need a piece of aluminum about the size of a person to make one can. We've got paper and then plastic recycling as well, and those are downcycled is what we call them, because they have to become lower grade paper or plastics. Paper can be reused into or recycled into napkins or something like that, whereas plastic water bottles have to be downcycled into smaller plastics, probably used for polyester in clothing. We've had to increase our quality standards, and contamination needed to go down in our recycling bales. So that includes paper, that includes plastic. Globally, we're allowed only about 1% contamination versus a few years ago where we were given more of a leeway with like 5%. So contamination in these bales and our recycling specifically is finding, plastic bags with our paper recycling or plastic bags with our plastic bottle recycling, things like that. Once those get mixed in, it really lessens the quality of the recyclables, and the companies that are actually trying to recycle these materials are finding it harder and harder to actually make anything out of them. So keeping contamination out of our different bins is like very important to actually getting these items recycled. And I'll go over our recycling now. just really quickly, I've circled things that had been in the past told to be put in compost. This was maybe 5, 6 years ago, pre-pandemic. We used to take coffee cups in our compost. We used to take milk cartons on compost, but now we've been finding that those items, because of their plastic lining, aren't actually composting very well. So we're taking them now in our recycling, and we are, San Francisco is the only place that works with the Carton Council to take these items in recycling. So outside of San Francisco, items with that plastic lining, so these milk cartons, juice boxes, are not recyclable, and would typically go to landfill. But in San Francisco, we are able to recycle them.
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course, yes, please feel free.
So the juice container, does that have a lining? Like, you know, a lot of box containers come with some sort of lining different from the milk containers, like you know, chicken stock or something like that. Are
Yeah,
those
so-
recyclable?
Yes, yes. So those are called aseptic, I believe, aseptic containers. So they have that kind of shiny metallic
Yeah.
lining, but yes, it's a similar process to retrieve they're only retrieving the paper from these products. So all the liners it's kind of put in a slurry of water, and the plastic lining and those aseptic linings are all kind of rise to the top, whereas the paper will all get mixed together outside of the plastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so
I'm sorry, can I ask another question on that
oh
topic?
yes, please.
So I've been using oat milk containers to put compost in. Should I stop doing that?
So you've been putting the whole container into the compost too?
I have, yes.
Yeah, so I would recommend, yeah, maybe finding like a paper bag would be really good for compost. That's what I do at my house. Especially if it's like stinky, I put it in a paper bag and then I put it in my freezer until my collection day. So I find that that works really well for me. We also have our free kitchen pail program in San Francisco. So any resident of San Francisco can call up our customer service and order a free kitchen pail for their kitchens. It's about 2 gallons, it's about this big, and it's got a lid. So those are really great for any kind of compost you have in your kitchen.
All right, great, thank you.
Of course.
I had a follow-up question to the boxes. So I think someone used chicken stock as an example. There's also soups that now come in boxes versus cans. But since only the paper component gets recycled, I'm assuming the plastic is then thrown away into the landfill. Anything that rises to the top. So it would be better to purchase all of those items from cans rather than these paper boxes.
Yes. If you're looking for the recyclability of these items, yes, the cans are, like we said, metal is infinitely recyclable. It just becomes metal again. It's a really good material that we always have vendors for. So definitely a good thing, because, you know, who knows down the line if the Carton Council decides that this isn't worth it and we have to change our messaging around the paper cartons again.
And then for the plastic containers, a lot of the plastic containers you get from the grocery store for like fruit and whatnot, they have stickers on them. Do those stickers have to be removed?
From the fruit?
No, from the container before the plastic container, like the clamshell container. It'll have like
gotcha.
blueberries, right?
No, we don't need that to all be fully cleaned off. I'll go into it more when we get to the plastics, but we ask that it just be clean and dry. So we don't need you to like fully rinse it out, get soap and, you know, have a whole nother dishwashing session just for your recyclables. I mean, it would increase the value and it would definitely increase its likelihood of being recycled. But we typically just ask that if you turn it over and nothing is just dripping out, that's totally fine. So like we said, the glass and metals are infinitely recyclable. I just want to point out, it's not all glass, it's jars and bottles. So your glass, your tempered glass, which is like your kitchenware, is not the same kind of glass and it doesn't melt down at the same rate. So it's only jars and bottles. And then all metals are fine. Tin foil, that's not tin foil, aluminum foil is fine. And we just ask that it be balled up and it actually doesn't even have to be too clean. So if your salsa on your burrito is still in there a little bit, the way that they melt down these materials will just burn up food. So here's just a big no liquids in the recycling. We really want clean paper, and that means clean and dry. Once these paper products become contaminated with liquids, it makes the paper no longer able to be recycled. So clean and dry paper. I also have a photo of shredded paper on here. I think shredded paper is best in your compost, but if you are putting it in recycling, we ask that you put in another bag and close shut so that it doesn't fly all over the place at our sorting facility, and then it
Your-
actually stays together to be recycled.
Your website says, because I just did this 2 weekends ago, the website says that you're supposed to do it like this in recycling. Because I was prepared to put it in my compost and I thought that made sense, but went to the site and they had this. So you're saying it is okay if we put it
Yeah.
in the compost?
Both
Great.
is okay, but if you're putting it in recycling to bag it, but you know, it's fine in compost too. It just soaks up any kind of liquids in the compost, so it's fine there.
Okay. Great.
Same with if you get cardboard wet, you know, you can put that in your compost too. If these things get dirty or wet or whatever with food or water, feel free to put them in your compost. But we don't want your napkins or like used paper plates, things like that. Paper towels once they're used. We don't want those in the recycling. Those can all go in compost. So here's like a nice side by side of clean paper versus your food soiled paper, or napkins, things like that, tissues even.
I think Iris, I think I sent this to you in an email, but I'll ask it here too for
Yeah.
the rest of the community. The paper clamshells takeout containers, to me, they feel like they're lined with the same stuff that the coffee cups are. How are we supposed to know what is a plastic lined and what is a compostable lined? Like another example is like the butcher paper that they use at Whole Foods to wrap meat, right? Is that, how do we know whether it's wax or whether it's something that's biodegradable versus plastic?
So I have a RIP test that I sort of go by, but it's still hard to tell. And I know that these paper boxes do feel like they have a plastic lining, but since we require that these items be compostable by the restaurants in San Francisco, I think we have to trust that they're buying compostable ones. But if you want to try the RIP test, same thing with paper cups. If you try and rip it and it's really hard to rip, that's probably a plastic lining. There are paper cups that are compostable and they have the wax lining, and those rip a lot more easily. So that's just sort of an informal test. It's really hard to know. There aren't rules quite around paper products having the compostable labeling. It's more of the bioplastics, the ones that look exactly like plastic, that need to say 100% compostable on them for us to know. But the paper products are still, that's just a struggle we have with these greenware companies, or the companies that put out these kinds of products. So I hope that's helpful. So then here are the plastics again. Like I said, we want them to be clean and dry, and we specify rigid plastics. So I know that people are always like, what kind of numbers go into the recycling? And we take all the numbers. So it's not that we're really looking for. We're just looking for whether or not it sort of holds its shape when you squish it. So like a soft plastic would be your film. Don't put them in bags, but your soft plastic would be like a plastic bag, your Ziploc bags, chip bags, that's Mylar. It's actually another soft plastic, saran wrap, things like that. They don't hold their shape. Those bubble wraps and the puff plastics that come in, packaging, things like that. And then we don't want them in bags again. So we all want the recycling loose in the bins. And this saves on the contamination from plastic bags as well. I guess I'll mention here, if you've also heard that we used to take plastic bags bagged into another bag and put in a ball about the size of a soccer ball. We would take them in our recycling, and technically we still do, but we don't have actually vendors or markets to sell those to. So even though we do take them, their actual likelihood of being recycled is pretty much not there. So plastic bags, we actually just urge people to put them in landfill, or if you can bring them back to grocery stores, that would be its best bet to actually getting recycled.
I have a question about the grocery store return.
Yeah.
I called a couple of the grocery stores that's on the list from the environmental department. Yes, it's called.
SF
And I was
Recycles.
asking, yeah, and I was asking them, is it just their store's plastic bags? Is it any store's plastic bag? Can we put Ziploc bags in there? Like, what is like the plastic bag return to a grocery store or to like a Target? And the random cashier I'd happened to talk to, like, may or may not didn't know. Like, do you have guidance on what type of plastic bags are accepted?
So I'm guessing that they want them to be uniform because that's sort of our issue as well. So we're getting all different kinds of bags, all different kinds of contamination in them. So they might be wet, they might, they might have breadcrumbs in them or something like that. So I would venture to say that they want them to be uniform, and they probably want mostly just their own bags back, or something similar enough, because the more different kinds of plastics you have, and it even matters that they're different colors, the harder it is to recycle. And so then here are paper cups and cartons that we spoke about earlier. So the plastic lining or this aseptic ones are totally fine for us to take in our recycling right now.
One quick question on that. I have oat milk containers that look like that chicken broth container, except they have a little plastic spout like in it. Is that okay?
That's still okay. Yeah. So you can even leave the caps on, and those will all get sorted out in the process of processing these items, because of they're getting submerged in water, and the plastic just separates from the paper product.
Thanks.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
I keep hearing different things about cereal boxes and that is that okay in recycling?
Yeah, so those are,
at one point I heard that you can't put it in recycling, and then I heard that you can, and so thank you.
yeah, so it's a clean paper. It's not quite a cardboard, but it's definitely still clean paper that we can take. We just don't want that, plastic bag inside of a cereal box. Yeah.
Thank you.
And so then here's a little game if you want to point out any contamination you see in this recycling bin. Yeah, feel free to unmute and just call out what you see.
Food. There's food in there.
Of course, the food.
Soiled paper.
Yep, the soiled paper. Let's see anything else. So the bowl and the
liquid.
The liquid that got on our clean paper. And then just a reminder to break down your cardboard boxes and don't bag your recycling, just to save yourself some room too.
Should we be removing tape or like excessive tape from cardboard boxes?
No, those are fine to stay on the cardboard boxes. Yeah, we just don't want them to be food soiled mostly, because the same process of putting it in the water, once the food is or grease, like a pizza box, we get in there, that water gets all dirty and it's contaminating all the other paper that was in there. So you don't want greasy paper on all of, all the other recycling you've got.
I have another question. Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead. So I was gonna ask a question about other things that have plastic on them, but if we want to stay on the topic of boxes, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask about the pizza boxes, because I thought I saw a picture of a pizza box when you did the compost. And that surprised me.
Yeah, so pizza boxes,
compost it?
Yes, perfect for compost.
Yay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Eat a lot of pizza.
Me too. I mean, the boxes are huge, but if you can get it in your compost bin, yes, that's what we
Great.
want. We don't want them in recycling.
Yeah.
I actually
Oh,
saw,
there it is.
yeah. What about Amazon? Sorry, I didn't realize there was chats. What about Amazon bubble packaging? Where does that go in the trash? Yes. So bubble wrap and even the ones that are like paper on the outside and bubble wrap on the inside are still also trash because it's a mixed material. And while the cartons are a mixed material and okay, like I mentioned, the Carton Council is what allows us to do it. They don't allow us to do it for your paper mailers that are plastic lined on the inside. Okay, so we'll move to compost.
I'm so sorry. Before we move to compost, can I ask one more question about
Of
recycling?
course.
I've noticed that currently a lot of aluminum cans are actually wrapped in a plastic label. I assume they're still recyclable. Like some of them are printed, but a lot of new ones have like a, almost not noticeable plastic wrap on them. I assume they're still recyclable.
So plastic wrap on aluminum cans?
Yeah, like beer or kombucha, like a lot of the ones at Trader Joe's, like they're no longer, I mean, I'm noticing this like across the board. Things are wrapped in plastic labels when they used to either be printed or have paper labels on them. Yeah, if
Okay.
you, I mean, obviously this sounds unfamiliar to you, but the next time you're at the store, just like kind of scratch them with your finger. They're not printed almost. And then my next question is there's also plastic bottles frequently like almond milk that have that plastic wrapping on it. I assume we're supposed to take that off to make it more recyclable. Is that fully necessary?
No, so it's not fully necessary. Again, the more you do and the cleaner you make your recyclables, the more likely it will, actually get recycled and they'll, the recycling processors will be really happy. But because they know that we are such a big operation and we are allowed some amount of contamination, you don't have to go through like all of the labor of taking every, label off. It's just you can if if you want to.
Gotcha. I mean, I assume it's not recyclable, whether I send it through to you guys or whether I cut it off. It's very crinkly. I don't think it's recyclable. Anyway, thank you.
The plastic itself on the bottle, no, I would say not recyclable if you take it off, but you can leave it on, I'm saying, when you put it in recycling.
Great. Yes, understood. Thank you.
Of course. And then I've got another question in here. What about small rings that go around milk jug lids? Are they recyclable or should they go in trash? And metal can lids, is it better to remove them entirely or leave them partially attached to the can? Okay, so I'll try and go through these quick. So anything that's small plastic, I think we used to also take, but we don't take any of these tiny little plastics anymore. So they have to be maybe the size of a credit card or larger, because they'll get lost in the sorting. They might either fall through or they get contaminate our bales, like our paper bales, and they end up, just mixed into all the other plastics, or I mean all the other recycling. So that'll include like your utensils. We don't take plastic utensils in the recycling anymore. Things like that. Sorry.
So plastic utensils should go in the trash?
Yes. And then the metal can lids. So metal is just really, really easy to separate out. So you can put your small metal can lids in the recycling. Okay, I'm gonna move to compost. Okay, so we take any kind of plant materials, so as long as it was never treated, so that means including paint, including fire retardants, things like that, on like lumber. Lumber is also probably too large, but small things from your yard. Any food scraps, so this includes meat and bones. What else would you normally put? This includes like milk, and like milk products. So because it's not just backyard composting and there's like big process and it all gets heated, it actually still can break down those things. Where if you're just composting in your backyard, you typically wouldn't want meat because it attracts animals. Other things like citruses are also not good for backyard compost, but we can take any type of food, cake even. And then we want used paper. So here's that clean paper versus used paper again. Used paper being something that food soiled or wet, your pizza boxes, your used paper plates, those clamshell paper boxes, even the Chinese food containers. I feel like those really feel like they're plastic lined, but we're told that we can take them. And then those used utensils that are made out of wood are also really great. And then that's the kitchen pail on this side, if you can see it. And then the compostable plastics, which you might have more questions about these two. We ask that they be visibly compostable. So it can't just be like a plastic cup because we can't tell. It has to say 100% compostable and have the green stripe or something like that to indicate that it's compostable. And you might hear words like biodegradable or green, or maybe it's like a beige looking fork. But if it doesn't say 100% compostable, it doesn't say BPI on it, those are not the kind of bioplastics that we can take. A lot of the marketing for biodegradability is actually greenwashing, and they're not even recyclable anymore. They're part bioplastic and part plastic, and they end up having to just go to landfill. And then these are the big no-nos for compost. Glass specifically is really, really bad to put in there because once it's broken, it's impossible to get out of compost. This compost is sold to farms, it's sold to schools, and glass in compost causes a lot of issues. It poses a risk to the farm, to people who have to, work with the compost. So that's a big one. I really don't want to see glass in compost. And then metal and plastic bags are other contaminants we see often, especially plastic bags, green plastic bags, thinking that they're compostable bags. These are not always the case. So making sure that plastic bags, the green bags that are going in there are actually compostable bags is really important. And then here's our compostable game. So if you want to look in the bin and see what is contamination there.
Foil, plastic.
Plastic bags.
Yep. Did you guys have any questions about compost before I move on to landfill?
Of course we do. You say that painted and treated wood can go in.
No.
Okay, good.
So those are the ones that we don't want. So if it's treated or painted, something like that, then we don't want them.
Okay. And yeah, go ahead.
I've had schools ask about like painted paper and stuff like that. So you can put like construction paper with paint on it in our recycling, but we don't want like that kind of thing in the compost.
Okay. And there's a size restriction for wood, I believe.
I think for like lumber, it would definitely be considered like construction. So yeah, if it's, I don't know the exact sizes, but if it's something you'd buy at Home Depot, I feel like that's not exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about compost. We're talking just like, you're raking up leaves or you're doing some weeding in your yard, things like that.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Do branches, leaves from yard debris get composted? Yes. Those are great compost. when we take all the food from San Francisco, we bring it over to Bevon over in Vernalis, and it actually gets put with a bunch of the other compost from the other ecologies. And so all the yard wastes that come from other ones are also really good and helping make the food waste like a little bit better to compost. Should we be chipping down larger branches? Yeah, I think the smaller they are, the easier they will be to compost. So it'll just be a faster process. But it does get turned over in about 60 days. So it's pretty quick. Yeah. Whereas bioplastics are causing issues because they take a little bit longer than that, but we're figuring it out. Okay. So I'll move on to landfill, and this is your other waste, and like the video said, it's non-hazardous stuff. So hazardous waste will keep separate, and I'll talk about that after. So plastic bags are the big one that I really want to get through to people, that it's not all plastics that go into recycling. So these soft plastics are really, really detrimental and have to go to landfill, unfortunately. So it'll include the plastic bags and your Ziploc bags. You know, a lot of food comes in plastic packaging. So all those soft plastics, bubble wrap, these puffed airs. Just a side by side of our rigid plastics versus soft plastics. We want your rigid plastics to hold shape when you kind of smush them. This PPE and sanitary items go to landfill, so that'll include these one-time use things like your masks and gloves. Also, soft plastic baby diapers have a lot of mixed materials in them. And then that picture there is actually dog poop. I think a lot of people think dog poop goes into compost because it's compostable. And there's compostable bags, but unfortunately, we don't take dog poop in our compost because it could carry bacteria or viruses or pathogens that we don't want being mixed in. And then styrofoam, I think styrofoam has been banned in San Francisco to be used at least at restaurants and things like that. So, but it does come with a lot of packaging, and that'll all go to landfill as well. And these are examples of some mixed materials. So that's like an Amazon mailer, this Chick-fil-A bag. It's got that shiny plastic, and then it's partially paper. So like I said, the cartons are okay, but we can't take all mixed material type products like this. So they'll typically go to landfill.
I had a question about the styrofoam. On your website there at the drop-off facility where you can like bring stuff in, they specifically call out that you can bring in large pieces of styrofoam. Is that still going into the landfill, or are you doing something with it if you bring it in separately? Or is it just like too large to fit into your trash bin? You drop it off. I was confused about why. Is anything differently done with it if I drop it off versus putting it in my trash bin?
So the drop off is for really large amounts of styrofoam. We're able to condense it. So styrofoam is just plastic that's been puffed. It's got a lot of air to it. And they compress it down, and then they're able to recycle it that way. But it's only if you have a lot. So if you've got like a ton of these peanuts, I don't think they're going to want that. But if you have large pieces of styrofoam from maybe like a fridge, that's the kind of large amount they're looking for that is recyclable.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, and then this is just this is our landfill bin, if you can find the contamination.
Cardboard and paper, and is that yogurt?
Tub?
Oh, the yogurt tub, I had a question about that with plastic. They're wrapped in a similar question. They're wrapped usually with a paper wrapping. Like, do we have to separate those things? It's nice to have if you separate them, but not required. Okay.
Exactly. Yes. So yeah, the paper, I mean the yogurt tub for sure. And then we have food.
Oh, I forgot the food. Yeah.
There we go. And the food. So we've got food, the burrito, the aluminum foil. This is a plastic carton for the strawberries, I assume. So we want to dump out the food, and of course the bag itself is not compostable. And then we'll go over hazardous waste really quickly. These are items we don't want in any of the bins. So this is all a special pickup. Or you can bring it over to our transfer station. So that'll include batteries, the fluorescent light bulbs, and chemicals, e-waste, things like that. Even just household cleaners are kind of things we don't want in the blue bins or the landfill bins, definitely not the compost bin, because they can contaminate other things. They could be hazardous when mixed with other stuff. Batteries especially cause a lot of issues because they can cause fires in our trucks. I think I read a statistic that there's one fire every day due to batteries. So
I have a couple questions related to batteries. I think I know the answer to the first one, but like if I have like a electric watch that I want to throw away, like there's a little battery in there that's not easily to get to. Are we just supposed to like bucket all that stuff up and ask for like a bulky item pickup? Like how do we get rid of these types of things? It's hard to disassemble.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the bulky item pickup or a special pickup. I think they'll do just for electronic wastes, or you can bring them into our transfer station yourselves, because the e-waste is, a lot of these things are the rechargeable batteries, and those are lithium ion, and those are the ones that are actually causing the most fires. There are actually some rechargeable lithium ion batteries that look like regular batteries, and we ask that those be taped off on the ends if you do want to collect them all together, because if they touch another battery, they all deplete the energy left in them, and that's what causes the fires, because of that rapid energy release. So yes, very hazardous, and no bins. So please give us a call if you're having trouble with these items, and we'll try and either schedule to come in to get them. Yeah.
A follow-up question is, I thought I had read on your site that you can put your batteries in a Ziploc bag and then put that Ziploc bag on top of your trash bin, and then it can get picked up with your weekly trash. Is that still correct?
Yes, that is still correct. I don't like to offer it right off the bat because some people live in apartments, but if you do live in a residential and you just have a black bin, we can definitely take it. You put it in a bag on top of your black bin, and we just take it on the same day as your regular service. And then if anyone have any more questions about hazardous waste.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did have one more question. For the medication, you take the medication back, or should we be taking that to pharmacies?
I believe you can take them back to pharmacies, but if you do have to bring it to us, yeah, we ask that it be like a special pickup, or you can bring it to us specifically at our transfer station to let us know. But it's not that we want them. It's just that if you have them and you're trying to get rid of them. Okay, and so this is just our kind of hierarchy of zero waste, philosophy. We want to like refuse our single-use type items because we don't want to I'm sorry, I'm like losing my train of thought. Increase like manufacturers thinking this is something that they should continue to do. So refusing these items, refusing single use is just one way to, the biggest way we think that we can stop all of the consumerism around single use, making these single use plastics specifically. And then the next would be to reduce the need for all these items. So and reusing them sort of on the same level for me. If you keep reusing the same things, if you've got your reusable bags that you bring to the grocery store, it'll hopefully lessen the need for all of those items. And then us at Recology, rot is compost and recycle are kind of the last line of defense So if you've done everything you can to try and reduce how much you're buying, then if they can go in either compost or recycling at their end of life, then that's the best. These are just items that, why do we need? Your single-use sauce packets, that stuff drives me nuts. And then if you can reuse items, for sure. Reusing plastic bags for garbage bags, that's like a very common thing, but reusing items creatively into other things is, to give them a second life, is always a good idea. And then here is our bulky item information. So every residence gets 2, and then apartments get 1 free pickup. It's about 10 items per pickup, and you just give us a call at customer service, or you can email us to schedule those out. And that is it. Thank you so much. I know this is a lot of info, but I hope that it was helpful. Let me know if you have any other questions that I didn't cover, or if there was something on your mind I didn't get to.